Hello, welcome to Betfred's Football Show. The Premier League is back and the highlight this weekend is 4:30 on Sunday. Paul's old club, Spurs. It's a North London derby against Arsenal and fingers crossed all the games are on. COVID is not disappearing in football.
It's not disappearing anywhere, and it's something that we're having to live with, learn to live with. And I think in football we're learning, but we're learning slowly. I think there's far too many games at the moment that have been called off due to injuries and potentially false positives. I think managers at the beginning of the season, they're told to pick a squad of 25 players. You must be able to field a team of 11 with substitutes. Going to my old team Leeds, they've had a 16-year-old on the bench. They've fulfilled fixtures, they've fulfilled the bench by giving younger players an opportunity. Yes, I can understand why managers want games called off. Players missing with the African Cup of Nations, injuries, COVID situations. COVID situations, more than understandable. Injuries, I don't get. We've always had them.
But Leeds benefited.
Leeds
Liverpool
benefited
in the Villa game.
But we're getting to the point now where it's becoming almost an unlevel playing field because of the amount of discrepancy in games played.
Yeah. But look, that is my concern. All right, Burnley and Watford, just one game between them at the moment. Watford played 18, Burnley played 17. But I mean, obviously, some teams have played 21, not at the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
Now, game's going to get called off.
Yeah.
What happens if a game gets called off? You know, COVID's not going to disappear in April and May. Hopefully, the world will be a hell of a lot better place in April and May.
You'd hope so, but like you
We
say...
could end up having, you know, a game having to be played at the end of the season. Real crucial game in relegation.
The last game of the season, one of the last games of the season in that fixture pack is Burnley Newcastle. So can you imagine the implications of a game like that, but the fixture pile-up before that? The end of the season will always be the end of the season unless you're going to elongate it by a week or 10 days, which has to be an agreed decision by all. But the fixture pile-up that teams are going to have in the final 2 weeks, 3 weeks, is going to be different. So Burnley Newcastle could have the last game of the season. Burnley could have played none for 10 days. Newcastle could have played 3, for example. So you're looking at the games now, you say, like they say, that 21 games, 17 games, 18 games. This is now starting to affect the top and bottom of the league. You look at the bottom 3, you say, oh, Newcastle played 19 games. Burnley have got 2 games in hand. Talk about the top of the league. Tottenham, 6th in the league. Got 2 games in hand, could potentially be 4th. So there's a lot of ifs and buts and a lot of discrepancies, and it's quickly becoming an unlevel playing field. The sooner we can level it up, the better.
Because Europe's going to start again next month as well, so there'll be less 3 weeks. Everyone managed to put a team out in the FA Cup.
Yeah, everyone managed to put a team out in the FA Cup, and you know, managers are utilising their fringe players, their younger players, which they seem unwilling to do in the Premier League when there's Premier League fixtures. Like I said, they pick a squad at the beginning of the season of 25 players. You're telling me out of those 25 players, you've got to be able to find 11, surely. It's going to be very, very unlikely that more than half of those players have got COVID or are injured. And like I say, we've never, ever in the past had games called off because of injuries, but we seem to be having that at the moment, injuries and COVID. And in the Liverpool situation, false positives. There's got to be a lot more.
Which brings the conspiracy theories in then, doesn't it?
You can't ask for private medical information on certain players, but there has to be a level of openness as to what tests have been done and who's tested positive. Because the conspiracy theorists, you and I can sit here and say it all day long, but false positives, when are they announced as false positives? If the player's tested positive once, if you test positive at home, you'd have another go, wouldn't you? You'd try again. So if you get one false positive, you think, oh, I've got COVID, oh, try again, that can't be right, and you maybe do 2 or 3. They're not all going to be false positives. So
what you're saying is basically, obviously, Premier League teams have got big squads. They've got an under-23 squad, and they've got an under-19 squad.
Yeah.
So whatever state you're in, unless a ridiculous amount of COVID, you should be fulfilling your fixtures.
I think you have to fulfil your fixtures. You look at other teams that are putting youngsters on the bench, they're giving youth an opportunity. The Champions League, for example, you name your A list and your B list, and you name 25 players. 25 players is a huge amount of football talent available to you as a manager. And at the start of the season, you name a squad of 25 that you deem fit and capable of playing in the Premier League. And I think there has to be some kind of rule that's brought in to say, unless there is 10 of those 25 that have COVID, then you can't fulfil a fixture. I don't think injuries should come into this. I really don't.
And obviously the African nations as well.
And you're losing players. But managers know that. Managers know they're going to lose players to the African nations. We talked before about Liverpool losing Salah, Mane, Keita, the players that they're going to lose. That hasn't come as a shock to Jurgen Klopp. That hasn't come overnight. He's had 12, 24 months to prepare for this situation, for this, what he knows he's going to lose those players. He doesn't know if a player's going to go down with COVID, but he also knows that those players are going to the African nations, so his squad's got to be strong enough to cope with it.
Let's just hope we don't lose any more games to COVID, but Paul's opinion is quite clear. They need to just crack on and fulfil these fixtures, otherwise it's going to be a fixture nightmare at the end of the season. Right, let's talk about actual matches. Last night, right, was that a fair result, or are we going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about VAR?
We can spend the next 5 hours talking about VAR.
Well, yeah. Chuck in Monday night as well. It's not been a great week for VAR, has it?
No, it's not been
taking
great.
too long.
That's the issue. I think when you talk about VAR, you talk about the Villa situation at Old Trafford. Stephen was quite right, Stephen Jarrett, at the end of the game. His Villa side were just building up a little bit of momentum. You could see them just coming into the game, and yet they're on the offensive, goal, attacks, set plays. They were looking strong in the game. And then VAR took 3.5 minutes. Heard talk now in the media, and which I'm quite in agreement with. There's got to be a time limit on VAR, a minute maybe maximum, for the referee to make a decision. Is this worth looking at again? Is it not worth looking at again? After a minute, I'm not being funny, if after a minute it's still not clear, it's not clear and obvious, surely. If it takes more than a minute for somebody to sit there and, is it, maybe, might be, isn't. If a minute elapses, it's clearly not clear and obvious. You carry on, you move on. Yes, it is interfering too much and it's getting too much wrong at the moment.
So what did you make of last night then?
I thought Spurs were poor in the first leg against Chelsea. I think they lost it in the first half away at Stamford Bridge, and I think it shows the gulf of where they are at the moment. Yes, they're capable of taking on the top two, the top three in certain games, capable of winning the odd big game, but when you look at the gulf in class, I think over the two legs, I don't think Spurs really concerned Chelsea in any way. I think that it was quite comfortable for them. They got their goal just before half-time, and Spurs went out with a whimper, really. Surprised at his team selection last night, Conte. Surprised he left the goalkeeper and his captain out. It's a semi-final. It's a huge opportunity to win some silverware. Yes, you're 2-0 down, but your captain, your leader, your best goalkeeper. I was surprised at some of the selections that he made.
Is it time to get a checkbook out?
Oh, he has to. I don't think there's any other reason that he would have taken the job without guarantees of getting some money in January. But the thing that frustrates me is they always wait till the end of January. Tottenham notoriously do that more so than any other club, and they need to back the manager. They need to change. There's players that need to leave. There's players that will leave, and I've no doubt that he's going to make signings. But why waste 3 or 4 games? You've got the whole of January. You've got 2 games in hand. You've got the North London derby. If you want to change, have these players ready. Bring them in now. Don't wait till the end of the month just to save yourself a few quid when you've actually got 4 games, 5 games in January that could give you a real opportunity of finishing 4th in the league. Yes, they have to spend. Defensively, they've got injuries. Romero's out long term. He's the best centre-half they've got. Eric Dyer's out injured. Their level of centre-half, they're not world-class defensively. They need to change. Going forward in the final third of the field, it looks like Steven Bergwijn's going to move on. Whether that creates an opportunity for somebody else to come into the fray there. Conte's going to want to put his own stamp on the team. They haven't won a trophy and they aren't regularly in the top 6 for a reason, because the squad's not good enough. They've now got a world-class manager. Give him the funds, support him, give him 2 transfer windows to do it.
Before we talk North London derby, Arsenal in action tonight, obviously, against Liverpool in the first leg of the Carabao Cup. How do you see tonight's game?
It's a massive challenge for Arsenal because it's an Arsenal team that are unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get from them. Mikel Arteta this morning, he's done his press conference, done his press releases. He's saying that they're struggling to field a team because of the African nations, injuries and the COVID situation. So this is a game where Arsenal are going to want to go into it strong, but they're going to be depleted. But again, you look at Liverpool, they've lost Salah and Mane. Can't remember a game where the 2 of them didn't play. So you're going to look at Firmino. I think Origi's injured as well. So you're going to look at Firmino, you're going to look at Jota. But I think it's a big ask for Arsenal to go to Anfield and get a result. Yes, Arsenal are improving. Bar the last 2 results, I mean, if you take their performance at Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup, it was awful. Yeah. And if he's going to field a similar side to that, regardless of who Liverpool put out, you'd think that they would beat Arsenal. I think Arsenal's biggest thing tonight is if they're depleted, if they're missing players, they don't get too far adrift. I can't see a way that they can win tonight with the team that they're going to be able to put out, but the important thing for them is that they stay in the tie.
So tell me about a North London derby. When you were at Spurs, the fixtures came out. Is that what you looked for?
Yeah, I mean, it's an old cliche, but the derby's the first fixture that most fans look for. In fact, probably all fans. And it means so much to people. You know, people say, oh, there's a friendly derby, there's hate. There is hatred. It's a real divide, and it means everything to the fans. It's a massive game. Everything around the game, the build-up to the game itself, training that week. Managers try and keep a lid on it. They say, oh, try and keep things the same. We won't do anything different. You know, the training's the same. But then you go and do the press conference, or you see the press come into the training ground. There's 3 or 4 times the amount of press that's there. The build-up to the game is just bigger than any other game that you get, and it's bragging rights. It divides family, it divides friends, and to have that bragging right until the next game is massive.
And as a Northern lad, did you understand that?
Yeah, obviously with the Leeds Manchester divide, playing a big game there, but you never actually understand a club until you're part of that club and you understand what it means to supporters to beat their rivals. I mean, when I went to Blackburn, for instance, and we played Burnley for the first time, they just said, oh, you'll never understand. Well, the derby's massive. Have you ever played in a derby? And I was like, well, yeah, England, Argentina, Leeds, Man U, the North London derby, just a few. Yeah, but it's nothing like Blackburn, Burnley. We hate each other. And every derby's different. And the Blackburn, Burnley one, the passion and the support for that derby, there was pure hatred and it was a different one. But there's always bragging rights and there's always, there is always so much on a derby. Some supporters will tell you, we don't care where we finish in the league, so long as we beat that lot twice this year. And that's the genuine feeling of a lot of supporters.
Obviously, it's hard to preview a game with Arsenal playing tonight, but is this the right kind of game for Spurs, possibly, after, let's be honest, a disappointing performance in the Carabao Cup?
Disappointing performance in the Carabao Cup, disappointing performance in the FA Cup against Morecambe, having to come from a goal down. 2 teams that of late have been in a lot better form in the league. You look at Arsenal, they played a lot better against...
thrown a bounce and then got beat by City.
But they played a lot better against City and they had an opportunity. I think being honest, I think they were unfortunate to lose against City. You put that in comparison to where they were when they played City at the start of the season. City put 5 past them, Arsenal were bottom of the league and they look worlds apart. You look at what Arteta's done in the meantime, you compare the 2 games, they were unlucky to lose against City. Then they play against Forest and they were awful. So the last 2 games for both teams are very indifferent and 2 poor performances. All goes out the window. It's a North London derby. I do actually think the game tonight against Liverpool will have a bearing on this Arsenal side. If he's struggling to field a side tonight, if they get heavily beaten and it's a tough game, that could have a bearing on the result on Sunday. How
important is Harry Kane? He's got a good record in North London derbies, 11 in 16.
Yeah, massively. He's important in any game for them. And I think Conte's got him playing back in between the posts. Spoke to you last time. He's now playing in the right areas. He's getting opportunities in the right areas. And he's looking... I don't think he's there yet. I don't think he's at the level that he wants to be at yet. But he's certainly a lot nearer. He's getting a lot more support. The team around him are playing better. And I think he's going to be the talisman for Spurs. He's going to be the figurehead. But there's always going to be the situation of his contract, what happens, how that goes forward. And I think we touched on the window there for Spurs. Not necessarily how important it is for Spurs as a club, but also Harry Kane. If he looks around and sees players of a certain level and a quality coming in, and he thinks, manager's doing a decent job here, we've got a few players here, we've got half a chance, that it may have an influence on his decision whether he stays or goes.
And what kind of message can it send for the race for the top 4? Because obviously you mentioned Spurs have got games in hand, 4 points behind West Ham, but with 3 games in hand. A win at home in North London derby be a huge confidence boost, wouldn't it?
It's massive, Mark. Nobody seems to want that 4th spot. You look at the top 3.
The top 3 have gone.
Nobody's going to break that top 3.
No.
So then you look below it. You've got West Ham, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United. Arsenal, so inconsistent, not necessarily a given. Manchester United, you don't know what you're going to get from them week in and week out. I mean, the performance against Wolves was particularly poor.
Yeah. Wasn't great in the FA Cup. We'll talk about the game against Villa coming up shortly as well.
West Ham come into the mix, but they've then got Europe to come in. They've got a squad that's not threadbare, but a smaller squad than everybody else. That 4th place is really up for grabs between 4 teams. And at the moment, you look at it, I mean, you might laugh because I'm Spurs biased. They've got 2 games in hand, an opportunity to take that 4th place. Spurs, with the glass half full, they've got 2 games in hand, a January transfer window. They've got no other distractions now going forward. There's no Europe, there's no Carabao Cup final. They've got an FA Cup, which they can utilise the squad. I think Spurs...
And you're happy with the new manager?
Very happy. I mean, he's world class. I mean, Daniel made the wrong decision, I think, with Nuno Espirito Santo, but I think he quickly rectified that.
I think there's plenty of Manchester United fans who are wishing Conte had
They're
come to Old
massively
Trafford.
missed out. They're massively missed out. You look at Klopp, Guardiola, Tuchel, world-class managers. You put Conte in that bracket. Nuno Espirito Santo is not in that bracket. Tottenham now, infrastructure, training ground, stadium, the world's best. One of, if not the world's best. They've now got the world's best manager that matches everything else. On the pitch is where they've got to get it right.
Give us a score then.
I'm going to go home win. I'm going to go Spurs. I've put them in my notes here. I've got Spurs 2-0 and Harry Kane to get on the score sheet.
Right, there we are. The early kick-off on Saturday is a cracker as well. City versus Chelsea. It's 12:30 on Saturday. Now, I don't want to keep talking about COVID, but we mentioned it at the beginning of the show. Now, City, I know they were playing Swindon. 7 out with COVID. Probably bar the goalkeeper and one other. It could have been City's full-strength team. They were very, very good in the FA Cup. Of all the teams you have seen, how do you rate this City team?
There's talk, do they need a number 9? I mean, can you imagine how good they'd be if they had Harry Kane in that team with the service that they got? Go back a few weeks to the way they played at Old Trafford.
Or even Aguero from 2 years ago.
Exactly, and number 9, I figure the amount of chances that team create. I saw them firsthand dismantle Leeds when they put 7 past Leeds. They were frightening. They play with the front 6, they're interchanging, the passing. Nobody's going to beat them this year in the league. If anyone finishes above Manchester City this season, they win the league. There's a 10-point gap already. Yes, you look at it, you say Liverpool have got a game in hand. That's an 11-point gap. And I mean, even if they beat Liverpool, you take 6 points off the 11 points. 5 points is still too big a gap for a team. Manchester City are not going to drop 5 points between now and the end of the season. They're too good. They're a very well-oiled machine. This game is huge. If Liverpool or Chelsea have got any hope of doing anything, Chelsea have to win this game.
Can they?
I can't.
Go on, give us a score.
I can make an argument for them.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Fred's already paid out on Man City to win the league.
Has he already paid out?
I know he's got it wrong before, but he has paid out.
I'm not surprised. I mean, you look at City, they've scored 53, but the big thing, they've conceded 16. I think it's Chelsea that's conceded 6. Yeah. City against 13, Chelsea against 16.
Yeah.
Goal difference, City 40, Chelsea 29. I can't see how anyone's going to stop City, the way they play, the way they go forward, the creativity.
Go on, give us a score then.
I'll go 2-0 City. I think that's what I put.
Yeah.
I put City to win to 0.
City to win to 0.
Yeah.
Well, they're at home, City, and I think City are a superb team. Right, Brighton Palace. This is a huge game, Friday night, 8 o'clock. Talking about not understanding how big games are, but Brighton Palace is a huge game.
The M23 derby,
Yes.
isn't it? The huge derby. I mean, this is a real derby with 2 teams that are quite a distance apart, but it's a huge, passionate derby. 2 teams with fantastic support as well. The support that they have at Selhurst, the Palace fans are incredible. They've gone away from their business remit this year with Vieira. They've changed the style, and I think he's done an excellent job there. They're playing a different way. Brighton have gone through a sticky patch. Potter, he's ridden that. They're in good form now, and they're looking like they're going to finish mid to top half of the table again. But this is, we build this game up, but it's always a draw. These 2 teams have got the most. I think it's Brighton that have got the most, or Palace that have got the most, and the other one's got the second most draws in the league. 3 of the last 5 in this game have been a draw. Brighton are in good form. They've got 7 points from the last 3, but there's rarely more than 2 goals in this game.
So, go on then, what are you going
it's
for?
1-1 all day long. It's a draw all day long. Oh, it's a draw and less than 3 goals in the game.
Let's move to the Saturday at 3 o'clock. Burnley, Leicester. Burnley just sold Chris Wood. Now, I know they've met his buyout clause, but it basically selling your striker to someone who you're scrapping relegation with.
Yeah, you've lost one of your best players and you've strengthened an opponent. And it's also, when you look at it, you've got Ashley Barnes injured, you've got Vidra injured, you only fit strikers Jay Rodriguez, who scored 5, and 4 of them were against Rochdale this year.
If you're a Burnley fan, you're not happy, are you, today?
I don't think there's anything, from a Burnley point of view, there's not a lot you can do. The release clause was met. You just hope, from a supporter's point of view, that money's given to the manager.
But he's got 25 million to go and get someone else.
And it's invested in areas of the squad that they can strengthen and get them out of the mess that they're in.
But does 25 million get you a striker in the Premier League?
I think it does when you don't go spending all 25. You look at structuring payments, you look at buying players in different ways, loans with views. If you use that 25 million wisely, you could probably get 350 million players if the payment structure's structured the right way, so long as you meet certain payments.
So give us a prediction on Burnley-Leicester.
I think it's a big ask for Burnley. I saw Leicester against Liverpool. I was at the game. I thought Leicester were really impressive. I think they've got a really strong squad. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a really big ask for Burnley to get out. They've only won 2 games at home in 12 months, Burnley.
Which is un-Burnley-like, isn't it?
Un-Burnley-like. And I think I can't see it starting against Leicester. I'm going to go both teams to score, but Leicester to win.
Newcastle-Watford.
Massive game. I mean, if there is a 6-pointer, this is it. These two are at the stage of the season now where taking something from the game is not good enough.
They're not cut adrift, are they? You know, Watford are very catchable. We'll talk about your old club, Leeds, later on. Watford are very catchable. You
look at the table, Mark. The 4 teams down there, 3 of the 4 that are there go. I mean, Leeds are 6 points clear of Watford. Watford are in a terrible run of form. They can't keep a clean sheet. They can't win a game. They can't keep a clean sheet. And the thing with Watford is when you look at the league table, I printed this off today because there's so much that this can tell you if you look at the table and analyse it. They've won 4, Watford, and lost 13. They've drawn 1. So that tells you that they either lose or win once every 4 weeks. And that's not good enough. This is a massive game for them. I think with Newcastle, with Trippier, with Wood coming into it, the atmosphere there, I can't see.
Do you fancy Newcastle?
I fancy Newcastle. I've got Newcastle to win 2-0 and Chris Wood to score on his debut.
Right, Norwich-Everton.
2 teams that are in different form. I mean, Everton are getting really sucked into it now. You look up, they're in 15th. It's almost unthinkable at the start of the season that you could think that Everton would be down there. Norwich, I think it's pretty much done. They've no wins in 5. Dean Smith has come in. There is a change. Defensively, they look a bit better. Everton got 1 win in 5. I can't make a case for Norwich to stay in the league. I can't see this being a great game, in all honesty.
Go on, prediction.
It's got, what have I put on here? Let me have a look what I put on here. I've got Norwich 1, Everton 2.
Everton fans will be quite happy with that at the moment. Wolves, Southampton.
Southampton, fantastic win midweek against Brentford. Wolves, one of the stats for Wolves, they don't score, but they don't concede. You look at them again in the league, what I said about the league table telling you a story. They've scored 14, they've conceded 14. If they had a striker, Wolves, if they had a figurehead, you saw the way they played at Old Trafford, you saw the chances that they create. I mean, they could be a lot higher up, and they're already sitting in 8th. They've had a really good season. They're sitting in 8th without a recognised striker. Southampton, new owners coming in. I think they're on the up. I tipped them to go down at the beginning of the season. I can't see that now. I think this has got draw written all over it as well. I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go score draw.
Score draw, right. 5:30 Saturday. I think the subplot to this is fascinating. Obviously, Steven Gerrard, former Liverpool boss. I thought Villa were very, very unlucky on Monday night in the FA Cup. But United have got a great record at Villa Park. United have got to play better if they're going to get 3 points against Aston Villa.
I really fancy Villa. I saw the way that they played in the FA Cup and I see what Steven's done. I think Luca Dean is an excellent signing. Coutinho is an excellent signing. If you believe the press, Basuma from Brighton is going to be the next one in. And those type of players, what he's now able to attract. He's been backed by the board. He can take Villa to the next level. You look at what Brendan Rodgers has done at Leicester, and I suspect that type of business model is what Villa are looking at. And looking at the way they played at Old Trafford, it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Manchester United. Manchester United have never really clicked into gear, which is it's difficult. I mean, you go through the Manchester United squad, look at the names in that squad, look at the players that they can put on the pitch. How the manager's not getting a tune out of that squad of players in that 11, I don't know.
Is that the problem? The squad?
I think there's
look, you've been in a lot of dressing rooms.
There's clearly unrest.
There's stuff coming out of that Manchester United dressing room which never ever used to happen.
You'd never get that under Fergie. Never ever. You'd never get any noises coming out of Manchester United. But it's not just every now and then. It's regularly. You look at Luke Shaw's interview last week. Players are criticising one another. Players are coming out apologising. Don't apologise, just put it right. Play well and get right on the pitch. The access to players now is different. You don't walk out the stadium, walk to your car anymore, so you can't interact with the fans and talk to the fans. It's through social media. So, I mean, words and this can be misinterpreted sometimes. But Manchester United haven't been good enough, and they're not. When you look at the squad that they've got, and I think it's going to be a really difficult game for them going to Villa.
Give us a score then.
Villa to win, both teams to score.
Villa to win,
I think that'd be decent
score.
odds on that as well.
Liverpool-Brentford, 2 o'clock Sunday.
Tough game for Liverpool. Brentford have been very good at home, but again inconsistent on the road. Liverpool have lost the players that we know that have gone to the African nations. They've got a tough game tonight against Arsenal in the Cup, but again they're at home. Without Salah, Mane, we'll see how they cope. Jota's going to have to take a huge responsibility. I think Origi's injured, so Firmino and Jota will probably play up there with Oxlade-Chamberlain maybe. I still think Liverpool have got enough to beat Brentford, and obviously with them being at home at Anfield, I think the value is putting Liverpool into your acca.
And 2 o'clock Sunday, live on Sky, West Ham versus your old club, Leeds United. Are Leeds safe because there's 4 worse teams than them?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that. Are they safe? I think they will be, yeah. I do think they will be. They're not safe now. You look at the table. They're what, 8 points clear of the bottom 3, 6 points clear of Watford. I think they're safe because there's 4 worse teams in the league than them. There's definitely 3 worse teams in the league than them. They've played most of the season missing between 6 and 10 players that would play regularly for them. They've got players coming back. I think January is important for them. I think they have to get players in. They have to sign a central midfielder. I think they're the only club that haven't signed a central midfielder for the last 6 transfer windows. And I mean, that position for Leeds with Calvin Phillips, Forshaw's come back in and he's been the player of the season for them so far. Leeds have got enough. They've got enough quality and enough to get them away. But I think this West Ham game this weekend is a big ask for them. They played them last week in the FA Cup with a weakened team, and it was hard. It was hard to gain anything from to gauge anything from that game. West Ham are in good form, especially Jared Bowen. It's going to be a big ask for Leeds to go there this weekend.
So score?
I don't like backing against my old teams, but I think it's too much. I think West Ham are strong. I've gone for a home win, but both teams to score because Leeds create chances.
But you're confident Leeds will stay up?
Absolutely confident they'll stay up. Yeah, they've got more than enough. You look at where they are in the league table, 8 points clear now, players to come back in. They're only going to get stronger between now and the end of the season.
Right, let's recap your selections then. Starting on Friday night, Brighton versus Palace, you went for a draw, didn't you?
Draw, simply due to the fact they're always a draw.
Man City, Chelsea.
City to win to 0.
Newcastle, Watford.
2-0 Newcastle and Chris Wood to score in his debut.
Norwich, Everton.
Went 1-2 Everton, away win.
Burnley, Leicester.
Difficult game to call. Both teams to score, Leicester to win.
Wolves versus Southampton.
A 1-1 draw. That was one sitting on the fence. I couldn't pick a winner.
Villa, Manchester United.
Villa to win, but both teams to score.
West Ham, Leeds.
Home win again, both teams to score.
Liverpool, Brentford.
Liverpool too strong for Brentford and Jota to get on the sheet again.
And finally, the game of the weekend. Really, really looking forward to this. Spurs versus Arsenal.
I can't wait to see Spurs win. 2-0. Harry Kane to get on the sheet again. Come on.
2-0, right, there we are. Paul Robinson's predictions. Paul, thanks for coming in. Really enjoyed your company. Remember, if you're having a bet this weekend, please keep it fun and gamble responsibly. See you soon. Be lucky.